Shane got a rude awakening when he saw Rick come popping out of that van. I mean, his face dropped, and if all the color had drained out, he would have been as white as a sheet. And Lori was also shocked because apparently Shane had told her that Rick was dead. And Carl still held out hope, so it was really sweet seeing Carl run to his father. Okay. Shane's anger and anguish over seeing Rick ended up coming and bubbling over to the surface by the end of the episode when he beat the tar out of Ed Peltier. And personally, I don't feel sorry for him being beat. What I was confused about was the fact that Carol was apologizing, but then I realized a lot of times with women who are beaten or battered, or men who are beaten or battered, they come to the defense of the person who is abusing them because they feel like it's their fault this is happening, especially when someone intervenes. If they hadn't said anything, made a fuss, maybe that person wouldn't have intervened and done it. But Shane just beat the holy hell out of him, and that was the craziest part of the episode, beyond the part of meeting Daryl Dixon and seeing that his bark was definitely worse than, not as worse as it, no, his bark was definitely worse than his bite. Daryl is a sweetheart, he's a teddy bear, and I knew that from the beginning, but he has a lot of anger issues, and we learn the root of those issues as we go along in the story, during the storyline, during the show. But the thing about it that really, really struck me about this episode was the fact that Lori became so angry that Rick wanted to go back and get Merle. But it wasn't so much as going back to Atlanta and getting Merle. It was the fact that Rick had to get that walkie-talkie because he promised Morgan he was going to stay in contact with him. And in doing so, he would make sure that Morgan wouldn't go into Atlanta and get himself killed, basically. But Lori's so angry, and it's like when she's basically airing her grievances about this, here comes Shane, and I'm just like, red flag here, and everybody's kind of looking like, wait till Rick finds out, and I'm looking like, if you guys didn't want Rick to know something was wrong, Rick definitely is figuring out something's not right. And the fact that Lori's treating Shane so mean, or she's being so mean to Shane this episode, like all she basically had to say was like, listen Shane, now that Rick is back, let's keep our distance, whatever. But the way she went about this brought out the anger in Shane, and I'm not saying I blame her, because I mean Rick is your husband, but it brought out such rage in Shane that eventually brings out other things this season and then the next season, but it's just full of rage. And like that scene when he knows that like Lori and Rick are having sex in the tent, and then all of a sudden he's the person sitting up looking at that tent, and it's like he's planning Rick's demise or planning to take him out. It's just like all these emotions flashing over his face at that point as it rains outside. But the one thing that struck me though about that whole scene was the fact that Lori said, don't worry, he doesn't wake up when she's about to have sex with Rick. So, call me crazy, but apparently Lori had sex with Shane in that tent with Carl there. I mean, it's all fine and dandy, the whole tryst in the woods, but with the kid there, I question both of their motives with that whole scene. And T-Dog is a better person than me, because I don't know if I would have led the charge or brought up the idea to bring back Merle Dixon. I would have been like, you just got to figure out how to get yourself out of this. But the cool part, though, was when Glenn pulled up in that Mustang. And, of course, they had to strip the Mustang. And everybody's all upset about the sound and everything. Shane brings up the point of that sound drawing the walkers. Dale foo-foo or pushes it away, basically, saying, you know, it's bouncing all around the area. And that idea comes into play later in the season or later next season, because you realize that these walkers are attracted to sound, and sound draws them. And another thing that really drew me was watching Jim set up that whole perimeter thing with the cans. It reminds me of season 4 when Beth setting up that perimeter thing and Daryl is out there hunting. But I mean, like, Dale tries his best this episode to, you know, cut the tension with the knife. Because as I said, everyone knows what's going on. Everyone knows about Shane and Lori having or doing the horizontal mambo. So it's a given. So, I mean, like, you're not hiding it from anyone but Rick. Because obviously Rick was not around. But I don't think Rick is that blind. I think Rick knows something strange is going on, but he's more concerned with getting that bag of guns, getting Daryl's brother, and just calling it a day. Okay. When they finally, like, the group comes together and it's Glenn, T-Dog, Daryl, and Rick, and they all make it, and they get there, and they get to Atlanta, and they get in the mall, and they get on top of the mall. And Daryl is so upset about Merle, you know, being left up on the roof and him cutting off his hand and escaping. And Daryl's just overcome with emotion. And I feel so sorry for Daryl because during that episode, I don't know, like, when I was watching it the first time, I wasn't sure if they were going to find him. Was he going to be dead and eaten? Did some walker find a way to scale that building? Or was he just dead? But to see that he was gone, it kind of gave me hope. Like, okay, so I guess Merle survived. He used some sort of ingenuity and got himself off of that roof. One of the two. But the one thing about the episode that really stuck out to me, beyond the point that the women had to do all the laundry, which I was just like, I was side-eyeing that with Jackie. I was like, listen, I'm not washing your dirty panties, your dirty underpants. Like, dudes, you get out there and wash your own track marks out of your underpants. I'm not even touching them. But the fact that, like, even in the apocalypse, like, Ed was just, like, so on Carol the entire time. And it's just, like, the way that Carol reacted or went through life, or I guess whatever you want to call it, the way that Carol, her mindset at that point, to the Carol we know now at the end or going towards the end of season 4 are two different people. And I love that character has grown so much in this series that it fills my heart because I'm like, listen, Carol has definitely come a long way in this series and I am so happy about it. So happy. But as I said, this was a really, really good episode. I have to do episode 4. I mean, the fact that Carol even apologized to Ed, that still kind of made me mad. I'm just like, Ed was like beating the crap out of you and he slapped the taste out of your mouth. Like, yeah. So, thanks guys for tuning in. This is Sage Valentine signing off. So definitely check me out on Twitter. I'm at Sage Valentine. Check out my other reviews for The Walking Dead as well as other shows on my channel. And stay tuned because I have other reviews coming soon. As soon as I finish Jericho, I am totally going right into Under the Dome. So when the series begins, I'll be all cut up because I do have the DVD. I do. So until then, everyone, you guys take care. Have a great week. Stay dry, stay cool, and surprises are on their way. So, bye, guys. Bye.